Incoming web transmission.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Well, it shouldn't say streaming Resident Evil 0. Dang it. Twitch, what the heck? Let's fix this. Wrong game. It's gonna be just chatting, actually. Just chatting. There we go. Excuse me. So anyway, let me double check and make sure I can hear myself. Where am I? Where did I put them? Oh, they're on the ground. Okay. Let me go get them. So anyway. Let's do a little test here. Let's make sure that everything's working as it's supposed to. Unexpected error. Sounds great. So yeah, so we're finally moved in, which is fantastic. We finally have internet, which is also fantastic. And I've got a computer set up for streaming. So that's all well and good, right? Hey Ozzy, how you doing, man? Yep. I was just getting started mentioning about how I've got stuff set up. I have a temporary streaming set up in this back room. I mean, this could become my streaming room. I may have to get a. I'm not sure if I would keep my desktop here or not, or do this, that, or the other. It depends on how everything goes, right? Because I also am running like a 100-foot Cat 6 cable all throughout the house to get here, right? Because the way the house it's kind of U-shaped, so there's not really a faster way to do it without running it outside or something. I'd have to like run it directly across, the two buildings or the two ends of the building, which I could do, by the way, but I'm gonna reserve making new holes in the house for something else. I hope you're doing well, Ozzy. Uh, but yeah, so at least I have this set up, so it seems to be working. Oh, hold on. Let me fix that. Uh, where is it in? Okay. Let me turn this up. What about that? Is that better? Let's see, where's the YouTube? Let's go to the YouTube. Can you hear me any better now? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I had the dial on the bottom. I guess the sensitivity turned down too much. It's actually turned way down because I've been trying to test it out. I've got a new mic backing that should help with some of the reverb, but uh my brains, hold on. It should help with some of the reverb. I'm trying to get a little bit better sound in here. Um, there's still a good bit of it. This room isn't great for sound, but that's something I can probably fix over time anyway. And what was the other thing I was trying to do? But so let me start over. That'll probably be a lot better. So in general, like I said, I've got a setup. We're moved into the house. All of our properties here. We've got internet set up, and I have this computer set up in the back room that's right now going to be my streaming setup. Um, I've got plenty of room. I've got power, and despite that, I have cable running from one end of the house to the other, which is kind of U-shaped. So it's like 100 foot of Cat 6 cable or Cat 7, something like that. Which I could probably run it from directly from this end of the building to the other, but I'm trying to avoid putting more holes in the house than necessary, right? For now, at least. So but if it's at least working. Oh, excuse me. So that's the good thing is it's at least it's working, right? And this over here. And so at least it'll allow me to, I mean, since I don't like stream since I only stream like about 2 days a week, it's not like it's a huge problem. And it's something I can work on is working on the sound, um, and just sort of things like that in general, right? Um, so it'll be part of like making the stream a little bit better, working on what I've got, and everything, because we've got a lot of stuff that we have to work on in this house in general. We've got to finish remodeling. We remodeling the bedroom. We've got to do a complete remodel on the bathroom. And just today, I found out that the water heater is leaking, unfortunately. So I've got to get the plumbers out here ASAP to do something about that. Because I fixed the draft hood, and then I was like, wait a second. And I noticed it just dripping very small amounts. And I was like, oh God. And the tray has got water in it. And I'm like, well, that's just fantastic, isn't it? At least the draft hood is fixed, you know. But still, I mean, I think whoever put this whole thing in did a bad job because the old draft hood was like collapsed down because they didn't cut the pipe that went into it. So they just like shoved it down to fit. Like, you guys can't take like 5 seconds to just cut a pipe in 2 inches shorter. You're just gonna just say, screw it, and make it work. It's like that's because the draft hood's supposed to sit off of it so that it can operate, keep carbon monoxide down and all that shit. Um, but that's kind of what comes with owning a house, right? Is that unless you buy, just like with a car, unless you buy a brand new one, you're gonna have to expect to spend a little bit of money here and there. It's cheaper than paying a mortgage or a car note that's 3 times as much. So it just is frustrating though, because you can't afford that 3 times as much, whether it comes in the cost of a mortgage or repairs that you have to do. Right? We're doing as much as we can ourselves though, um, which there's a lot of stuff we can do ourselves. Like I had to fix, like our dryer has a different plug on it than what our dryer plug in. Yeah, exactly. That's how it is. They're like, man, we're getting paid by the job, so do it as fast as possible. It's like, come on. Um, I mean, mechanics can kind of be the same way too, because they, especially if they get paid by the hour, or not by the hour, but by the labor rate. If it pays 2 hours, they're going to get done in an hour, right? For better or for worse. So yeah, that's the excuse me. That's one of the problems with the house is that some of the remodels and repairs and stuff that have been done kind of crappy. That's why I'm taking my time on fixing the framing. Excuse me. Uh, so that I can do it at least as properly as a non-carpenter can, right? The key thing is making sure that it is stable enough where it doesn't collapse. If I can keep the house from collapsing, that's all. Luckily, it's not like it's super important because it's like on the very corner of the end of the extension. So, hell, if it was up to me, I'd also get rid of the fireplace because the fireplace, the lining is cracked. And the problem is that if you have cracked lining in a fireplace, you can't use it. You have to get it relined, right? Or repaired or something. And it's like, yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. We have about 100 more important things to do. Yep. Wiring, both wiring and plumbing are so bad because it's like, well, you know, it's not that it was bad plumbing in the first place, but when you're talking about, you know, 60-plus-year-old plumbing, yeah, there's going to be problems, right? Oh, if it's a metal pipe, yeah, it's pretty much worthless. They'll point that out, like, oh yeah, you see the pipe of the water coming in. Yeah, it might have been a 3/4 diameter pipe, but now the only hole is like literally the size of like a pencil, that's coming through it. So you had all this gunk that the water was running through, right? Not sanitary, not healthy, and certainly it would explain water issues, right? Because we had to spend a lot of money to get the plumbing issues straightened out because there's a lot of bad repairs. But then the wiring is also an issue because of changes to code, changes in standards. Like it's recommended by the inspector for us to get a new main panel because the panel that we use we can't get anymore because it was ultimately deemed unsafe because they weren't properly tested and rate they weren't properly tested for the rating that they were given. So if we ever have a problem with the breakers, we it's going to be hard to find a replacement without buying something like off eBay or something. We definitely can't buy them brand new retail. You know, we luckily Rose's grandfather is an electrician and he offered to help. Um, Along with I have a little bit of experience with house wiring, and her stepdad also has experience with house electrics. So if we all work together, we can probably fix a lot of that, including grounding everything, because most of the circuits here are not grounded, right? They might have grounded receptacles, but they're not actually grounded, right? And of course, that's the thing. You really just want it to be grounded anyway, um, especially with expensive electronics and other things like that. So we just have a lot of stuff that we have to work on, and and one of the things that we were worried about because we were looking at the box, the options for the we were looking at the box and we realized that it's pretty much almost directly attached to the meter, and it's like, oh, it may require a little bit more work to try to get it because it's also inside of a closet, and breaker boxes are not supposed to be like inside of a closet or something like that either. Of course, this is stuff the inspector said, and people can argue the inspector, is going to pick everything apart like crazy. But it's like, yeah, but that's also why you get them, so that you can show the inspection to the person selling the house and say, hey, look, this is all the stuff we need to do to get this house straight. So we'd like to get the house for cheaper as a result. Luckily, we were able to. Um, and there's a lot of like random things like when we got internet, who either somebody fiddling with the internet or the internet people themselves actually wrapped the cable coming from the pole around our power meter for some reason. Like it was also hung loose. Now I don't know if it was Comcast that did that or somebody that was like, oh, it's hanging loose. Let's just do this. But luckily the Comcast guy came here, he got it straightened out real easy. And I'm like, thank God, thank you, man. Um, we also like we have things like the yard. The yard needs a lot of attention because the backyard they had put like lots of rocks. They had made these little rock paths and everything, but it's long since become disheveled. So we have a bunch of rocks we have to dig up to try to get a proper yard. With like grass and life in it. Invasive bamboo because anyone who's ever had to deal with that, where somebody, 10 years ago they planted bamboo and then now suddenly it's just everywhere. And you can cut down most of it and then it just starts coming back real fast, right? Because that's what it does. Because they put a barrier, but the barriers are ineffective because they're just going to the ground a few inches. And it's like, guys, you got to get a barrier that goes down 3 feet, or else there's no way you're going to stop it. So we have to clean up all this invasive bamboo. We've cleaned up a lot of it, but there's still so much to do. Just removing unnecessary stuff. Like there's a fence in the back, like in the middle of the yard for some reason. Like I'm sure there used to be something there, maybe, but I don't know. And so, hell, one of the first things that we did once we got it is I had to spend. Hey, what's up, Cheesy? How you doing? Yeah, for some reason, Restream doesn't switch over Twitch on stuff like that. So, I'm gonna leave that for Tuesday still. Just making it my two for Tuesday special. I'm glad that you're all right. But one of the first things I did was I spent hours digging up because one of the fence posts, because the pole was in the back and it was like right next to the little shop garage area. So I dug that up, got that out because I'm gonna dig up all those fence posts on the unnecessary fence that's in the middle of the backyard. which is good because we actually use that for our mailbox instead of getting like a post. We use that we use that fence post, so it's like a steel rod, so it's actually pretty stable. Um, but oh, the yard work. We have a lot of yard work. We have a bunch of trees we have to cut down because one of them is literally like right on the corner of the house, as in it's touching the corner of the house. Oh yeah, that's no problem, man. Because right now I'm just chatting before I start playing any games. Um, yeah, and you know, you also have to be careful, of course, when cutting trees down because you go too buck wild on it, you bust a hole in your roof or somebody else's roof. Plus, one of ours actually it's got power. It's like has got power wires running in between two of the separations of the trunks, right? It's like, oh God, because you're gonna only be able to cut so much down before you have to worry about it possibly ripping out the power cables, and we're not about to do all that. Uh, got a bunch of trees like that we have to cut down, and we have to do a little bit of maintenance on the it's a oak tree in the front, and one of the branches is long since broken off, but it still is like hanging in some of the other branches. It's like kind of stuck in it, so I need to find a way to be able to get that out and you know maintenance that. It's a lot of things that we have to do. We definitely have our work cut out for us, for sure. The good thing is that's cooling down a little bit, so it'll make going out and working in the yard easier. I think digging up those rocks would take forever though, but ugh. Because my goal is to have a proper backyard, with like grass and life, right? Where it looks like stuff lives, where it looks like nature again, right? Not just out of control bamboo, uh, rocks, and decorations that are falling apart. Because again, it's a lot. They like to call it deferred maintenance because that's what it is. It's it was supposed to be maintenance, but it's been ignored for years. Because this house was purchased. Uh, the house was purchased by a lady, and she essentially had it as like a place for her son. And he, was in and out of it. It was mostly a place to keep his stuff because he would often stay with whoever his girlfriend was at the time, right? A nudge is the same as a wink to a blind bat, is what Monty Python said. And you know, so there's a lot of deferred maintenance because his opinion is I don't care that much to put in this work, which I mean it's fair. Like that's also why I'm having to fix the framing because years ago the roof had been leaking and had been leaking for a very, very long time, long enough to completely ruin the framing in the corner of the house. I mean, because you can see like parts of the old like roof slats or whatever where it's just straight up gone. It's eaten through because it's fallen apart from so much rain damage and just other stuff like that that we have to slowly fix over time because of course it's extremely expensive. Hell, just buying all the stuff I needed to fix the draft hood because it's recommended for a draft hood for a water heater to have the double walled pipes and stuff like that. So to buy a 90-degree and two extension pieces so I could get it fitted along with the draft hood itself. I've got to return some stuff too, but that's the biggest thing is like trying to make you save your receipts so you can get your money back on the stuff you ended up not needing. Because both me and Rose are the kind of person that's like, hey, let's buy what we think we need and return whatever we don't need. Because the last thing we want to do is spend an extra couple of hours every day going back and forth to try to make sure we get enough, right? That's why I've got so much extra wood for the stuff I'm doing. But that's a little bit. I'm doing it little by little over time because I'm trying to make sure I do good. Because like, uh, you know, again, it's the case of I don't care if it looks like crap right now because I want to get it done right. Just so that at least I can feel secure that it's good enough for now, right? Uh, because also my like shop area, I'm gonna fix some of the stuff on that. I mostly had to clean it, and I fixed the door because it had some problems with the way the door was. And but some of the other stuff that we're going to be doing is, or that I'm going to be doing is one is that some parts of the siding have have been damaged over time. So it really needs to be recited, right? But when it was built, when the extension of the shop area is what I call it, was built, um, they pretty much just put the siding directly on the framing. There's really nothing covering it, right, whatsoever. So once the siding gets damaged, you just have a hole in it, right, uh, where rain, water, animals, things like that can get in. Because the inside is just really thin wood paneling, and so that's some of the stuff I got to fix. Plus, I think it might be a good idea to get some asbestos testing done because these extensions were done probably in the 80s, maybe earlier. So there's a good chance that pieces like in that shop area it has a drop ceiling, and those pieces could be made of asbestos. And if they are, I want them out of here, right? But of course, I think any building that's older than anything that's older than 1990, you should get checked for asbestos because there's a good chance there's something there that is asbestos. Because of course they used it like crazy. They were like, asbestos, this is the greatest thing in the universe. Let's use it. Hell, a piece. So this sounds like it's out of left field, but it's not. 9/11. There's of course talks about this, that, or the other, and then conspiracy theories related to thermite and whether and who caused it, all that kind of stuff. Here's one of the things. The reason why the structural integrity of the building was so heavily affected, first off, steel, the steel beams, as they say, loses about 50% of its structural integrity at the temperature that jet fuel burns. 50% of structural integrity on a skyscraper is a death sentence, right? But also, normally, it would have fireproofing, right? Uh, because, I mean, you don't want just a fire in a big building causing it to collapse because that has happened before, despite what people say. It's like, no, buildings of that type have collapsed from fire before, which is why they put fireproofing and stuff in them. The thing is, the fireproofing in the World Trade Center was asbestos, and they were actually in the process of removing the asbestos from it, which is part of the reason why why it became such a problem because there was a lot of floors that was still missing that fireproofing because they had taken it out. You know, it's one of those very unlucky things, right? Uh, so it's kind of an interesting thing that I didn't know. I only learned about that years later, and I was like, oh, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because I mean, yeah, of course it's got asbestos in it. Like, I mean, there's a reason why people can still make businesses doing it because there's still so much around that has to be disposed of. But anyway, I think that's all the updates I can give on the house right now. Oh wait, I've got my webcam set up. Let me activate it. I forgot about the webcam. Let's see. Image, not media source. Okay, hold on. Uh, video capture device. Hey, look at that. I'm going to be extremely tiny right here. How you fellas like that? Tiny me? I'm going to put up here in the corner. Alley-oop. How about that? Let's rearrange it. Hey, everybody. In my little Toyota shirt. Because I also felt like, hey, it's a good time to do a little bit of face cam here. Get really close up. Here we go. We'll just do it like that. Here we go. It's really big. There we go. Ah, earthquake. Here we go. Yep, of course, I don't normally do face cam. It's just not that I'm opposed to it. I just don't do it a lot. Just chat. Here we go. Here we go. Just just G. Just G. Just C. Okay. Let's do it about like that. See, I once worked for a large hospital in a big city. They kept buying buildings nearby to expand, and one of them bought was very old, still asbestos in the walls. Yeah, it's a huge yikes. Oh no, no, it's okay. I won't criticize you for the earthquake. Not too much, maybe a little, but not right now. They had to put up all kinds of plastic and fans, had to sign waivers in case they were locked up. Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, it makes sense, of course, because they're like, hey, we're telling you that there's asbestos here. If you choose to go, mm. And again, they also have to be mindful about they can't spend too much money trying to clear it out immediately because it is expensive. First off, they got to get it tested, and second off, they have to take the process of removing it, which is a long, drawn out process. I don't think I need this anymore. I was using that to test my. I should have tested my volume levels beforehand, but yeah, like I was actually thinking about putting up plastic in the shop area just in case it was asbestos. It might not be now. I might get lucky and it might not be, but also you don't want to take a risk on it because I mean that's one of those things. It's like, oh, you get to be 65 and they're like, yeah, you got lung cancer, bud. And you're like, oh, I wonder why. Oh, it's probably asbestos. And I'm like, oh, that's fun, thanks. And I also don't want to be like a hypochondriac and asking for an MRI because I have a little tingle in my throat. But also at the same time, like early detection is the biggest. It's one of the biggest things about cancer. But again, with insurance and the way medicine works and all that, they're not gonna, you know, unless there's a good reason, they're not going to pay for you to have. They're not even going to give you a referral for it either. So, because like I found out the hard way that you pretty much can't get an allergy test like unless you can specifically identify something that's causing a severe allergy. Because what they'll do is they'll give you medicine to treat it, and if it treats it, then they're like, well, you don't need an allergy test because the medicine works. And if the medicine doesn't work, then they'll. I don't know, because I'm sure I'm allergic to something. I'm sure I am, but I don't know what it is. Like I don't know, I might be allergic to dust or something else, but I don't know, and I can't get a referral for it. When I had the times when I did have health insurance, I have it now, of course. Just recently got it again. But the times before when I did have it, I was like, "Hey, can I get a referral to like just get a general allergy test and find out what I might be allergic to?" That'll probably help with a lot of this sinus stuff. And then just like, nah, they won't pay for it. And it's like, oh, well, that's just fantastic. Yeah, don't do preventative diagnostics. Just throw pills at it, right? I mean, it can be really hard to get like any kind of testing, right? Or any kind of diagnostic because then they'll insist on certain tests that you have to do first. Like that's how I had to get an upper and lower endoscopy, which sucked ass. Not only did it suck ass, because, well, yeah, anyone who knows what that is, or has had one is like, yeah, it's not fun. You are sore from both ends for days, but also had to pay out of pocket for it, and it's not cheap. For some reason, that type of medicine here in Mississippi is not cheap, which is weird, but whatever, right? I mean, look, I'll say it like this. You know that medicine is making bank because if you go to like what they call UMMC here, the University of Mississippi Medical Center, it's literally like a fucking city. Like you look at it from above, it looks like it's its own town, right? It's got dozens and dozens of buildings. It's got a bunch of different parking lots. It looks like a miniature city. Like they have their pavilion and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy. They have no shortage of money, that's for sure, right? UMMC is fine though. I haven't really had any major issues out of them. of course, there's other medical places that I haven't had great experiences with, but UMMC is actually fine though. So I got to give them points where they're not really problematic for the most part. Of course, going into kind of specialist can be annoying because you do have to have insurance or pay for it first to even schedule the appointment. But oh, it is what it is. Let's see. What I'm gonna do in the meantime. Well, first off, I'll say this for anyone watching: if you guys have a game suggestion other than Resident Evil Zero, because I feel like if I say as for game suggestion, Cheese is gonna say Resident Evil Zero. But no, only on Tuesdays. I'm doing that for Tuesday. As long as I can continue to at least have part of Tuesday off, because I don't want to do it in the evening after group. I want to try to probably do it around 12, but possibly sooner. But I don't uh, I don't want to do it in the evenings. But I don't know because my work is being extremely weird. You know, I feel like that with this new management, there's like a lot of, I wouldn't say a lack of communication necessarily, but there's a lot of, okay, yeah, I'll call it a lack of communication. I'll just say that. They don't really communicate things very directly or straightforward. And that can be kind of frustrating because it's like, look, if you want something from me, you need to tell me. You need to tell me directly because I don't do good when you like hint at it or be unspecific or expect me to know because it's like no, we don't play that game. Like if I get in trouble because you didn't directly tell me something, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say you didn't tell me. You may have hinted at it, you may have implied it, but you didn't fucking tell me. You got to tell me. I need direct communication. Um, and I'm not going to necessarily blame it on being on the spectrum, even though that's likely the reason why. But whether or not that is the reason why is irrelevant. The fact that it's what matters is that I know that I need direct communication. It ends up being like that episode with where George was trying to get that job, and then that guy was very unspecific, and he didn't know what to do. Ends up feeling like that all the time, you know. But I mean, things are looking up, so I might actually be able to have more money, which is good because I want to get Silent Hill 2 remake. Which when I do get Silent Hill 2 remake, I am gonna play it on stream, probably on either Saturday or Sunday, right? I'm gonna play the shit out of Silent Hill 2 remake because it looks amazing. So, um, but I'm also gonna be getting back and doing speedrunning stuff and everything. Because like actually, I have a bunch of extra desks that I set up. So I took the small desk I had and started to set it up, and then I broke it somewhat, and then I fixed it. And by broke it somewhat, it's like the top is made of like thick fiberboard, and it has these like threaded holes that's built into it. And I guess after I screwed them in, when I was trying to like pick it up off the ground and then move it around, the feet got caught on the carpet because this room is carpeted, and it like basically just ripped them right out. And I'm like, well, shit. But then I just moved the legs over, and then just use self tapping screws and just screwed them in there. So it's a little wonky, but hey, it works. The only downside that these legs are not super long in the front, but this desk was made to be mated to another desk anyway, not stand on its own. So I just used a bracket to attach to the wall to help stabilize it and put the front feet on it tall so that it leans back slightly. So at least it works. It works generally. I kind of wanted to like find a poster to put up there, but when I was driving around in the morning, because I was doing this all day, was the past 2 days I've been spent cleaning up this room, so I can set all this up and setting this up. I wanted to go somewhere and get like a poster, but not just put a poster up. I was gonna like do something goofy, like flip it upside down or write stuff on it or whatever, but I never got around to that because when I was driving around and went to the places I knew I could get a poster, I Excuse me. Oh. They were closed because I was up a little bit earlier this morning. Well, not super early, but earlier than I usually would be on Sunday. Because on days I have off, I just chill, bro. I say that when I also talk about having to rewire stuff and fix a draft hood and doing all this. I I try to chill somewhat, right? Because I'm not a morning person, so I'm like, I'm not. I might be awake, but I'm not getting out of bed unless I really have to. I'm the kind of person you have to drag my ass out of bed. If it weren't for the fact that I don't want to get fired, I'd be just lazy, just being lazy and getting into work when I feel like it, as opposed to ugh. I keep yawning for some reason. I don't know why. Well, I say yawning, it's like 11 o'clock where I am, which isn't late for me, but so let's see. I'm going to do a window capture. Here we go. Let me move my video capture up here so that you see me. Hey everybody, how you doing? I should put the chat up on screen too again. Wait, hold on. No, no, what are you doing? Oh, excuse me. What if I do all that and then do window capture? Move the chat up here. It's hard to see like that. So, but etc. So, in the meantime, until I get some sort of game suggestion or an idea of something I'd like to play, I am going to I'm going to work on this. So, I've been fiddling a lot with AI stuff, right? It's a simple program. It's essentially just you run images through an AI and it filters them, right? But it's a really good one. Um, because it's actually pretty it can be pretty accurate or make some interesting stuff. Of course, people can criticize the AI stuff all they want. I'm not that kind of guy. Ugh. Excuse me again. I use it for expression, right? I use it for personal expression. And so I took Doom Train from Final Fantasy VIII, the official art of him, and then I put Bloomaloo's face from a thing onto it. And then I ran it through the AI. And so now I have Bloom Train. It's amazing, isn't it? So I'm trying to make it so I can make it an emote. So I'm trying to clear out all this white stuff. The white stuff, so that I can so it can be a nice emote. So I'm gonna work on this in the meantime. Oops, too small. Here we go. Yeah. Ooh, let's get that hardness down some, shall we? A boop. There we go. It's still too huge. What? Why is it huge? No, wrong direction. Ah, I'm not that great. Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Whatever. Now, I'm not that great at Photoshop, and this is not Photoshop, but it's still similar enough. So, so please be patient with me. And if anyone has any suggestions, they can feel free to drop them in there. Oops. Let's just. I always forget to like let up off the mouse because I'm also like I'm so heavy-handed. I will be honest and admit that. I'm a bit heavy-handed with a lot of stuff. I tell you, similar to the Ozzy's asbestos story is actually my work somewhat recently had a problem where the septic tank decided that it I think it got clogged up or something. People were probably flushing paper towels and stuff like that down the toilet, which is a huge no-no, everybody. Anyone who doesn't already know, do not flush paper towels down the toilet because they don't dissolve the same way toilet paper does. Let me make sure I'm still within the frame. So please, for the love of God, don't do that. Paper towels alone will clog a septic tank. And then also feminine hygiene products. Don't flush them down the toilet because they certainly are not capable of being uh, properly digested by the system. And just anything else that's not toilet paper and human waste. Like if it's not toilet paper and it doesn't come out of a butt, don't flush it. He said, "Ah, yeah, I've done this before. It can be very tedious." Yep. Because now one thing that you can do now again going back to the AI thing, people can be very critical of AI, but I'm like, well, not really, because there's actually AI programs you can use that will do stuff like, oh, you want to make this all transparent? Yeah, it'll do that for you. Like, you can select it, you can select what colors to do transparent and it'll fix it for you, right? Because there's actually one you can use for doing green screen stuff that's pretty good. Um, I've actually used it a couple times for some of my memes, so I give it a I give it a 6 gorillas out of 10. I don't know. Some rating system, right? What does that say? Let me see what that says. Oh, good rules for life there. Yep. It's just very important. Like nothing sucks worse than like trying to get a and try get of course people should maintenance their septic tanks anyway, um, if they have them. But it's like come on guys, be a little more reasonable. Okay, so I'm gonna do this at a harsher hardness, but a smaller size. Stop doing that. Smaller. But again, that kind of goes to the deferred maintenance thing that, a lot of people, well, they're not going to spend a whole bunch of money for something that only matters if it creates a problem, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, sure, but I mean, it's like maintenance to your car. Like, just take care of your stuff. Hmm. Okay. We're just going to go pixel. My brain tricking me. Either way, let's see. Some art programs that you select similar and you can remove it that way, but a lot of times it will remove parts you don't want it to. Yeah. See, that's kind of how that's kind of how that one works. Is the one that I mentioned works is that I can't remember what the name. I've got it bookmarked somewhere or something. Where what it does is like you select colors and it'll be like, all the colors that all the ones that are that color or similar enough, it'll go ahead and green screen chroma key it for you, right? Like fantastic. But also you do have to tweak it a lot, you know. And that's one of the things I think a lot of people don't realize is that AI fiddling around with AI does require some finesse. You don't just like click a button and then it saves your life, right? Like I know it can seem that way, but it's like you could argue that about any number of aspects about computer programs. You know, I'm not saying be like, ah, who cares about AI and then just, you know, sit on your hands. You know, I'm saying like don't let it get to you because you may find one day that it's extremely useful to you. And again, I have no problem paying artists that make art that I like. So I've got one artist that I really enjoy. Um, they do a couple of different things, but they also do a lot of like adult oriented stuff, um, which is perfectly fine. Like I don't have a problem with that. You know, and I was like, man, I wouldn't mind paying them to you know do some possibly do some channel art or do some other things like that. You know, because I've paid them before for different art, like had them make something for Rose and other stuff like that. It's like, you know, when I like an artist, I'm willing to pay the money to use their for them to use their services. Not to see how this is working out because it doesn't work when you're just a when you just have just the teensiest bit of color blindness. Because I'm also like, huh, does that mean it was erased properly or not? Let's zoom out. It's looking pretty good though. It doesn't have to be a rocket science. It doesn't have to be a super mega ultra perfect. Or at least that's what I'm trying to tell my brain. Because you know how your brain does, where it's like, yeah, it's not perfect. Wait, hold on. Why is opacity? That's part of the problem right there. Is opacity is, oh Lord. There we go. There we go. Now we're cooking with oil. See, again, uh, I'm not the greatest at this sort of thing. I'm not, oops, I'm not in, when it comes to like drawing art, I'm not, or even this kind of, you know, whatever I'm doing here, I'm not an expert on it. I really do a lot better with the video editing, or at least I feel like I do better enough to be called good. It's because video editing doesn't really require a steady hand, which I don't have. Okay, I think that, okay. It gives some nice sharp edges there. I've been trying to look up tutorials for Blender so I can make better stuff. Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Like make a you know make a 3D model and then printing it. Man, that would be awesome. Oh God. Let's just change the hardness to this. I'm pretty sure that I'm sure there are lots of good ones. Well, I say there are lots of good ones, but it's still probably a case of like sifting through them to find ones that explain it in a way. Like what gets one of the things I've noticed about using any kind of like program like that is like making sure that you can find one that actually is teaching you the stuff and not spending 5 minutes of preamble. You know, it's the meme about cooking recipes, right? You'll get a cooking, you know, it'll be a page talking about a recipe and it'll spend the first 5 minutes telling you about how their mother came from Guatemala. And you're like, I really it's like I appreciate it, don't need it. I need the recipe, thank you. It's like, look, look, love you, glad everything worked out for you. I need the recipe. And it's like that. You get some videos where they spend 5 minutes talking about like how to do something when they could just say do this. Oh yeah, cooking is nice. It's it can be good whenever you make something that's good and presentable. I don't do it often. I do it a little bit, and I try to learn a little bit here and there, so I can at least be a little competent if I need to be. Hmm. But like, okay, so when I made that Phantasmagoria 2 thing, where I was telling people how to fix the bug and put it on Scum VM, I dedicated myself to the goal of making sure it was concise so that you're not sitting there watching a 15-minute video. In fact, let me see how the video is. I'm going to see how long the video is. Phantaz to glitch. Nice. It's the first. See, the video is 3 minutes and 32 seconds long, which I think is a reasonable amount of time for a video. And it's not just telling you how to do one thing, it's telling it demonstrates the glitch. It tells you how to fix it, straightforward, right? Because that's what I want out of a tutorial. I want one that's, one, it specifies what exactly you're trying to accomplish. And two, it tells you the answer quickly and simply. Because one, you can always slow down the video. One thing that people forget about YouTube is that if you go too fast for people, you can slow down the video. I do that all the time with various things. you know. And again, like I said, you don't need a bunch of preamble. You don't need to be like, oh, hey, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not even talking about people like advertising or shilling. I'm just talking about you get some folks that they go all over the earth when they could have just told you control you, right? Like the first time I was trying to figure out how to unmount something in Vegas, I swear to you, when I was like, that's where I got the idea to do like 10-second tutorials, right? Where it's like, hey, Vegas Pro, you want to unmount a audio from a audio track from a video track? Yeah, select it, control U. You're done. Oh, you don't want to use that? Then you right click, go to this, go to unmount, and you're done. Or it's not mount, it's group or whatever, but still, the point still stands. You could tell someone how to do it very quickly. As long as you're clear in what you mean, because that's another thing about tutorials, is trying to figure out what to call the thing you're trying to do. Because if you call it the wrong thing, it won't work. Like you're trying to search for it and you're like, I have no idea what they call this. You're like, how to blank. No, that didn't bring up anything. How to blank. No, that didn't bring up anything. That goes to the, because I bitch about this from time to time, is about the problem of like, if you're in some sort of discussion with people and someone just tells you to Google it, it's like you're assuming that I know the exact term to Google it to find the specific piece of evidence you are claiming exists. It's like, first off, I'll be that guy and point out that, oops, and point out, oops, uh, that burden of proof is on the person making the claim. If you want to make a claim and have people agree with it or believe it, you have a burden of proof. Like, and we're not talking about like simple stuff like 2 plus 2, right? But in general, you do have a burden of proof. If you want people to believe you or agree with you or whatever. Because like I had examples where I was expressing myself about some things and people will say, hey, you got proof for that? And I'm like, for me, yeah. And they're like, well, you need to show your proof. And I'm like, no, I don't need to. If I want you to believe me, yes, I'm obligated, but I don't really care if you believe me or not, because this is my opinion. Plus, I doubt I could change your mind anyway, so what's the point? And then they decide to go on this big long thing and I was like, I'm not obligated. There's no obligation for me to provide proof. I was like, how about this? If you can explain how I'm obligated, then I'll do it. And the closest thing they could say was that, well, if you don't provide, if you don't provide proof for your claim, then you're something something. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that goes again. It all goes to a stranger's opinion of me, which I don't care about. I'm sorry, I just don't care. Like, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that your opinion doesn't matter, but I'm saying that I don't care because I'm not gonna waste my because because it all goes to people trying to bait you into some sort of argument. They want you to post a piece of evidence so they can explain how it's wrong because they're trying to explain how you're wrong. You know, I ain't got time for that, man. I don't really care enough. Like, if you think I'm wrong, more power to you, bud. Hell, because I might be wrong. Fuck it. I'm just not gonna lose sleep because some guy didn't like my lack of presenting evidence or even how much. Because again, there's always going to be, and it happens so frequently, people who don't they're not going to listen to any kind of evidence, right? Or they're going to do ad hominem and attack the source of the evidence. They're like, well, these people said it, so it can't be right. And I'm like, why? A fact is a fact, no matter who says it, right? If it is indeed a fact, right? They say a broken clock is right twice a day, and that's true. So even something that is said to not be able to accurately tell time can accurately tell time when it's correct. So no matter how faulty the source might be, that doesn't mean that the source is necessarily incorrect in this one instance. So that's why it's always most effective if you get a situation like that is rather than criticizing the source, just explain why it's wrong. Especially if it is clearly wrong, then it shouldn't be that difficult, right? Like if someone said this person said this, in this event, and then you're like, well, here's a transcript of the event, and they don't say it anywhere near it, and here's a link to the video of the event, and if you can find the timestamp where they said it, then feel free to post it. You know, I just like to point out to people that it's not really my obligation, it's not my job to prove your opinion for you. Like it just isn't. It's like I don't like to be a dick or be stubborn. I'm plenty willing to look at a variety of information, but if I'm talking to people, I'd rather hear it from that person. Um, because there's also a lot of confirmation bias. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance and stuff like that, where we're not perfect people and we misremember stuff all the time. As someone point out, in fact, today that I was wrong about something, and I looked it up because I'm like, it's possible. I was like, yeah, I think I was misremembering an article because this was literally over 10 years ago. You know, so it's like, yeah, there's a good chance I just misremembered the article because it was 10 years ago. Of course, you know, I'm like, so I was wrong on that fact. However, I was like, however, that doesn't necessarily invalidate my primary point, which is this, you know. And of course, that person didn't disagree with that either. It's like, see, that's why if you act reasonably when you're talking with people, at least some people will be reasonable back with you, right? Not all the time. There's going to be plenty of unreasonable people, but that's why you just don't talk to them. If you see that somebody is becoming unreasonable in a discussion or a topic, just back away. Worst case scenario, if they push it hard enough, because where they're trying to bait you into some sort of argument, you say, you know what, you're right. You are 100% right. And then that's it. Or just say okay. I love saying okay. Again, I had somebody say something to me the other day, and my first response was okie dokie. And that was it. They never responded back after that because it's like, you know, a lot of times you think you're defending yourself, but you're really giving someone more ammo, especially if their goal is to put you on the defensive. you know. And remember, you're valid. You're a valid person. Um, like there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of personal beliefs and stuff I don't agree with, but I'm not going to say you're an invalid person because you have as much right to believe whatever you want as I do, you know. Like, and there's some stuff I vehemently disagree with that I'll say I absolutely cannot agree with you. I've had people try to whip out some stuff, uh, and I'm like, buddy, that's your life. Feel free to feel that way all day long. I will not participate in it whatsoever. Because that's one thing I mentioned about like racism or whatever. Um, because it crops up from time to time, right? Someone will say something like that, and I'm like, sorry, bud. If you want me to agree with you or validate you on that, I will not. The only thing I will validate is your right to believe it. You know, you're allowed to believe whatever you want for whatever reason. Just don't ask me to participate, and certainly don't act on it in my presence, because I will call you an asshole. And if you act violently, I will act violent in turn. Okay, like you know, no, 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 no. We don't do that here. Here we play nice. No matter how much you don't want to play nice, we play nice here. Luckily, I've never like seen that. The most I've seen in terms of like combative situation like that was just some guy being an asshole to Latino women. And it's like, bruh, stop acting your shoe size and act your age, motherfucker. Just chill the fuck out, dude. Like the shit you're worried about ain't important. Especially because we were all waiting in line. It's like, dude, we're having to like be here and wait in line, and it sucks, and you're just making it worse by acting like an ass. Like we want to go home. Like we don't want to like be here. We want to send our is in the post office too. It's like, dude, we want to send our shit out. We don't want to listen to your stupid diatribe. Like, bro, I just need some stamps. I don't need this discussion, all right? Hmm. I'm gonna zoom out. I'm gonna see. It's looking all right. You can still see the white kinda, but it's not horrible though, so it doesn't look like he has an aura really. So I think it looks good so far. Because my goal is for him to use it as an emote and to give me a hug and a kiss, possibly at the same time. But since it's October, it might be a good time. I'm probably going to play Phantasmagoria and Phantasmagoria 2. This time though, I'll probably split them into two different playthroughs because again, I found out that the 6 hour streams I cannot do. Uh, Anything past 5 hours is too much, and 5 hours is pushing it. So that's gonna be my goal is to do 3 or 4 hour streams. And because last time I played Phantasmagoria 2, it was like 6 hours, so I could split that into two streams easy. Um, I'll have to go and I'll have to make sure to remember to watch the stream at least well enough to figure out where the halfway point is, so that I don't uh so that I don't mess up and go past the halfway point. Wait, it doesn't make any sense because if I play it anyway, I'll see the halfway point is at 3 hours. I think I just logicked myself. I fact checked myself. Still, I mean, it's a good idea to know where I get to, especially if I'm like, hey, I'm going to do some of the Easter eggs and stuff like that in two, and say, well, if I do too many Easter eggs, then I'll run out of time to be halfway through, and then I won't be able to get through the end of the game because it's a point and click adventure game can vary wildly depending on how long it takes you to do the puzzles and stuff. Of course, for me, it's not a problem, but that's a different story. Let's see. Overall, it's looking pretty good. Again, it's also going to be shrunk down, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Because once you get down to it, it's going to be kind of hard to see it. Like if you squint real hard, you won't see it. The thing that's funny is it decided to like make it kind of like a fish to give it like an aquatic theme, which is kind of interesting. Again, I know some people have like a negative opinion of like the AI stuff, but I'm like, there's some really interesting stuff you can do, or you can see how it reacts and stuff. And I am a fan of just sort of the expression that you can get from it. Especially if it's one that allows you to tweak it and modify it based on different parameters, like adding keywords to modify it. Because that's the idea I've been doing recently is like saying, hey, taking something like either me drawing something or photoshopping something. I call it Photoshop even though it's not actual Photoshop. But doing that and then running it through it to get interesting results. And that's where I got stuff like this. It's like, you know, it allows me to play around with it. Because I like it. I like the presence of AI of the AI stuff when it's within reason. And I know there's a lot of unethical stuff with like data mining and stuff like that they do. Um, like I'm sure a lot of it is just fishing for personal data, or just any kind of data that could be useful, right? But it still is pretty interesting. Just like I mentioned about these AI chatbots that I've been using to write stories, and I've come up with such interesting story ideas and characters where I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying reading my own stuff from my own characters, right? So it's reading my stuff as I'm writing it, like, and I find myself enjoying it, right? Um, it's good to be able to get and do some writing expression too. Because again, as anybody who you know sees me on Conversation with Curtis or other things, I kind of sometimes get the urge to write, whether it be poems or just goofy stories or whatever. And I like when I'm able to write something that compels me. You know, I've had quite a few people praise my knack for writing, and I'm like, because recently, okay, so one of the streamers that I'm gonna mention is Mask of Games. I'm gonna drop that shout out because I gotta remember to do the shout out stuff. I should drop cheesy one too, huh? Yeah, let's give you that old cheesy. How do you do this? Did I do that right? Playing Devour. Oh, nice. Oh, awesome. Glad welcome back, as they say. But what I'm talking about, the one I'm specifically talking about is Mask of Games, who's been playing Tormented Souls. Mask of Games, super freaking awesome. And Mask of Games, Mask has started doing tarot readings. If you like gift a sub or gift bits, 500 bits. And so I asked a couple of questions because see now when it comes to tarot, I don't like to ask yes or no questions. I like to ask very open-ended questions because that makes the interpretation more interesting, I think. So one of the things I ask is should I write a well, not should I write a book, but I was like, essentially like, what would happen if I decided to write a book or publish a book or whatever, you know? And it was kind of interesting because it was a really positive, it could be a positive interpretation. And I'm like, cool. I mean, I actually have a friend who is well, I'm not sure if I'd call it, if it'd be called self-published, but they are a published uh, poetry writer. They released two books. Um, Freaking awesome. Absolutely love her poetry. I think it's so vivid and intense because she's had to deal with a lot of stuff in her life, and she loves to write. She loves poetry, and that came a form of expression for her. And as a result, the downside is that is that a lot of that the publishing company she ultimately used, I believe, didn't do her very well. So now she just has it and just releases it for free. Um, but it's really cool though, because the poetry is amazing. And again, I've had to deal with similar things in my life, so it kind of I connect with it really well. But it's like, so it's but it's that's the thing, is it's not super difficult to get published. It's not like, maybe if you compare it to like something big, but it's not as gate kept as like other forms of the entertainment industry, like music. You're not going to be your CD is not going to be in Walmart, buddy. Because you've got to get a major label who has a deal with Walmart for what CDs and blah 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 blah, distribution, marketing, advertising. Bro, there's so many books out there, it's crazy. It's like, oh, you want to write a book where where a woman has a romantic relationship with an with a evil squid monster. Guess what? It's out there. Like, oh, you want to read a book where Nazis actually revive dinosaurs a la Jurassic Park? It's out there. The sheer number of books that came out after 50 Shades of Grey that were like some variation of it. I am the keeper of gates. Do not gatekeep. No gatekeeping allowed. There is so much gatekeeping though in a lot of entertainment industries. And again, it's of course the main purpose is to reduce competition, right? Um, to use Since Taylor Swift is popular right now, she's a perfect example. Why would they want you to buy a CD that's not Taylor Swift? When you can buy the Taylor Swift CD. It's that kind of thing. Because like you know movie theaters, for example, they only have so many screens, and what are they going to do if 20th Century Fox says don't show if 20th Century Fox said don't show this film, or else we're not going to let you show these films? What are they going to do? They're not going to stand up and say, hey, we're not going to take that anymore. We're going to show what films we want to show. No, that's not going to happen because Fox would be literally depriving them of millions of dollars of revenue. Maybe, well, depending on the size of the theater companies or whatever. And it wouldn't just be Fox. I was just using Fox as an example, but anyone, MGM, Universal, all that kind of stuff. All they have to do is just threaten, because the funny thing is, that's how Star Wars was put into so many theaters, because they had a different movie that year they thought was going to be their Oscar winner, their big hit movie of the year, right? And they said, "Hey, you show Star Wars in these theaters or else we're not going to let you see this." And they let you show this, and it's going to make so much money. And they're like, "Okay, fine. Whatever. We'll put your stupid space movie." And then Star Wars became a massive, insane blockbuster hit and changed the uh, film industry forever. So yeah, um, there's good and bad. There's good and bad to that. To see that like a small time movie can get a chance, uh, but also the downside is that means that it's also the kind of thing that can reduce competition because they can make sure that certain things don't get shown if they felt like it might compete or whatever. Again, now they're not going to do that to like, you're not going to have a case of Fox trying to screw over Universal like that. Because obviously, they're, one thing that's always important to remember about the big dogs, about uh, big companies, is that they generally actually work together more than they work against each other. A perfect example is actually a nice story about a corporation collusion. Was that one time some guy went to go work for Coke, I think it was, either Coke or Pepsi, um, and actually was and stole some of their formulas as a result, and then tried to bring it to the competition. I think it was he worked at Pepsi and then brought it to Coke, and Coke told Pepsi and absolutely fucking refused to take the formulas. They're like, no, they're like, this is not how we want to beat them in the market with industrial espionage. This is not what we're here for. And besides, what are we going to do? Steal? Like, I think it was somebody working at Pepsi. And then, like, besides, what are we going to do? Steal, make Coke brand Pepsi? No. And I'm like, that's kind of cool, though, that they were like, yeah, fuck you, to that guy. Like, that they wanted to be ethical in their business. You don't see that a whole lot. But again, of course, the move is as pragmatic as it is moral. But hey, you got to take what you can get, right? And I think it's a nice story to see that. But in general, they do kind of work together, right? They try to compete in different ways rather than like stealing each other's shit and all that kind of stuff. That being said, these companies certainly have no problem working together when it comes to screwing over small businesses and competition and things like that, which is a little into economics, a little into politics, et cetera, et cetera. Because, rather than forming a monopoly to get rid of the competition, they could be two separate businesses that get rid of the competition. It's kind of like, oh, it's not a dictatorship, but it is an oligarchy, right? You know, which is unfortunate because, you really do need competition in a marketplace. Oops. In order to get the best out of it. Hmm. Still in frame? Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of crouching up on my chair, just chilling a little bit. This can actually be really cathartic, is just doing all this. And I know there's probably a faster and a smoother way to do it, but I'm just taking my time. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. Good enough, close enough for government work, is what they say. I could probably do a little bit there. Yeah, 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 that's fine. Wish I had more Bia. I should have bought some more. I've got this Sapporo, which is good, mind you. It's not against Twitch TOS, is it? I hope not. It's actually soda, by the way. It's cream soda. Delicious cream soda. I don't know what Twitch TOS is. I was worried because I was worried that Twitch had messed up one of my fellow streamers that I watch and stuff like that because I finally convinced them to play Phantasmagoria 2, and then something was going wrong on like their tab or something that they had where it was saying that they had violated the terms of service. But then they were like, I didn't get an email about it, so I don't think it's actually true. I think it's just a tab is bugging out. I'm like, thank God, because I would have felt super bad if I had convinced you to play Phantasmagoria 2, and then you got freaking wrecked by Twitch about it. Because it's like, I was like, because I'm pretty sure Twitch doesn't care about that. Because like, as long as your stuff is marked as mature, um, and it's within artistic merit, then they don't mind nudity and stuff in a video game. Like, yeah, if it's just completely pornographic, they don't want it. But in a game like Phantasmagoria 2, it's part of the story. It has artistic merit. It's not just smutty. Because like one of the things I praise it for is that it actually has a sex scene in it where people are using protection, you know. And I'm like, that's still unusual today. Like you almost never like, oh, that a movie might talk about using protection or might talk about protection, but when you get to the scenes, almost nobody's ever even bothering, right? And so I'm like, it has some artistic merit in that regard, where it's like, hey, look, it's a thing that was in the game, and then you see it, and then all that kind of stuff. And plus, the game also often has to deal with relationships and stuff like that. Like, it's not unreasonable. And again, it's also got one of the greatest video game scenes in history with Curtis hanging from the ceiling. Because I don't care who you are, that's awesome. It comes out of the blue too. Sort of. Ah, don't do that. I love the game. I love it so much. Oh yeah, I'll tell you, Ozzy, I forgot. Well, I didn't say I forget. I got caught up where I couldn't finish watching the live stream the other day because well, a lot of it had to do with like coming home from work and then having a lot of stuff to take care of at the house. And just a lot of weird, I don't know if I'd say weird, but a lot of weird things have been going on. So I've been trying to like deal with those. So I'm like, yeah, I don't have the time to be able to do it, to be able to watch it. And I didn't even have my computer and stuff hooked up because I was leaving work. Once I left work, and again, I was working on getting all this set up, but it wasn't time just then. What does it say? Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm eventually gonna probably play Dormitabus because Red Z was wanting me to play it. So I probably will eventually play that somewhat, at least a little bit, probably an hour. Now, I do have a question for anybody who, comes here. Would you consider Ripper to be a horror game in any regard? Or is it more or less just like a mystery game? Because to be honest, when I think about it, it's got horror elements. I mean, it's about a serial killer. But is it really a horror game in that sense? I'm not sure if I would consider it one. Oh, another thing is I'm also recovering from being slightly sick. Luckily, I wasn't as bad sick as Rose was, but I was sick, unfortunately. So I had to recover from that. I was having to down Sudafed like crazy just to keep because one thing I wanted to make sure to do was cut it off to where it doesn't move into my throat. Because if it was going to move into my throat, then I was going to have a bad time. because that's that sort of thing's always the worst. When you know you have an illness that starts out minor, but then it moves somewhere and it gets worse. Ugh. It mostly happens when I get like sinus infections and stuff, and it does that where it moves into my throat. Dude, I had one year I kept getting tonsillitis. I got it like 4 times. It was ridiculous. I was getting so stressed because I mean, dude, tonsillitis hurts, and it gets tiring because like yeah, you have time to recover, but then you don't, right? You know, when it comes back, and then you're just like you're still mentally recovering from it, and you just eventually get to the point where you're just like, can I just curl into a ball and die? Because like I got so bad tonsillitis at one point during that one year that my tongue was swollen to the point that I like my tonsils. Well, it wasn't my tongue; it was my tonsils were so badly swollen I couldn't speak. I'm serious when I was literally talking like this because they were so badly swollen. I had at that point I went to the emergency room. I went to the hospital because I couldn't eat or drink anything either. It hurt too bad, and so they gave me a bunch of shots. They gave me a couple of shots of different stuff to try to like get the to, one, get the swelling down, and two, to deal with the infection. It was rough, bro. Luckily, after that episode, I only had one more. Why is the opacity all the way down? Luckily, after that, I only had like one more in the year before it chilled the fuck out. And I've had it only a time or two since then, luckily. Dude, I fucking hated it though. Like I said, it gets super stressful when you have it happen like so many times in a short period of time because you're just like, ugh, come on. Give me at least a little time to rest. I'm not sure what was going on either. Maybe it was just, I don't know. It's weird. Something I'll certainly say that's weird. Give me just a second. Let's see. Hmm. Where is it? The Beppis. Yep. Of course, one thing that happened was that my alternator finally gave out on me, unfortunately. Which is fine because I kind of knew it was coming anyway. So I mean, it's not fine. I wish it didn't happen, but I can also deal with it. Because I've got I've got experience working on that specific vehicle. Which is part of why I got it because I'm like I can pretty much do everything I need to on it. Like the only thing I probably couldn't do is any major installation like a transmission. But considering that I've gone through those with a fine tooth comb, I've replaced the piston rings in them because of the uh, service bulletin that they had. I've done everything on them except replacing a whole transmission or a whole engine. but I'm sure I could do either one because when you've had to go and replace piston rings, you pretty much can do everything because it's going to be the hardest to to get it working, because you got to take off the head, you got to do all this. Mm. Tell you what, I don't like this tendril. It's a little weird, isn't it? It's just kill it. Here we go. Here we go. Problem solved. But I'm glad that we're in a place that's solid enough where I can stream. Again, I've got two desktops actually, so I may leave this one back here for streaming and one up front for other stuff. The other one is not powerful. It's made up of old used parts, but I was sort of making it so that Rose could have a desktop, but I don't know. Her laptop might be kaput because it kind of, I don't know. I think the where the power cable is connected to the motherboard, I think that's completely broke. So, because it seems even looser now. I need to really just check the motherboard. I really hope it's not kaput, but at the same time, if the motherboard's gone out, then it's over with. Because you pretty much have to buy an entire new one, uh, just to uh, just to get the motherboard. Not new as in brand new, because it's an older one, but you have to buy one for parts and hope that the parts are good. My belly is full of milk, and I'm going to play even stream. Oh yeah, I see you said back. Welcome back. Uh, Essen Essen box. S and box. What is that? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, one of the things that my goal of, let me see what one of my goals to do in with harassing the conversation with Curtis guys is hoping I can eventually convince them to play Silent Hill. Of course, I think if you do a game recommendation, they're more receptive to stuff. Like if you're like, "Hey, I want you to play this game," they're a lot more receptive to it. Like I think they still, I mean, obviously they still have limitations, but I was coming along real well. Just a second. The spiritual successor to Gmod. That sounds pretty awesome, actually. Of course, I know Gmod still, exists around, but it's also kind of, I imagine it's kind of like the way 3.5 edition D&D was, where it's like, yeah, it's still around, but, you can just play Pathfinder, which is it, but better. In fact, the people that I used to play with would call Pathfinder 3.75 because with the way it's designed, it's pretty much like if someone made an even newer version, newer edition of 3.5. I ultimately had to stop playing because I just didn't feel like I mean, the long and short of it is that I just didn't feel super compatible with playing with them. Plus, it takes up a lot of your time if you do it every week, which is what we were doing. And ultimately, that's one of those things where it's like, let's just go about our separate ways in this regard. Like I enjoyed it when the games were fun and stuff like that, but there's been a lot. It was a long time coming because the games weren't always very fun. It's like if I'm not having fun, then I don't really need to be here. And I guess part of it was me wanting to do the collective storytelling. But I think for some of the other members of the group, it's more about socializing than it is about uh, the storytelling aspect of it, which is fine too. Like I don't have a problem with that. But I'm also the kind of person that's like, well, we don't need a game to do that. We can just hang out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing games. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be D&D either. We could play whatever. Dude, I would love it. This is made by the same people too. Oh, really? That's freaking awesome then. I always love it when people can get recognized, independently for the work that they do. So that's super awesome. Like I generally love the idea of D&D for sure, but like it's just tough. So I just opt to not play it anymore, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it because it's like, well, when you have a bunch of games that kind of go in a rough way, you become it's easier to be less it's easier to not be nostalgic for it. But I mean, granted, that's true of anything. When you look at it from the negatives, it's easy to be like, well, this sucked, even though 9 times out of 10 it didn't suck. It's like true, true, but also it's all it is your negative experiences are valid, as much as your positive ones. And a lot of folks tend to forget that, when it comes to personal validation. Lost my train of thought. Oh, this is gonna come out so good. Can't wait to submit it. He better use it. And frequently too. Or else. Yeah, which I should give I'll give a shout out to Bloom a little bit later on. Which I do recommend Bloom if you like retro games. He does a little bit of speed running here and there of Crash. Um, but he almost always plays retro games. He played through quite a few of the Resident Evils. He's going to eventually play through more. Playing through Silent Hill, uh, all the way up to 4 at least. So he's going to be doing Silent Hill 2 remake soon because he finally was able to get it. Which I'm like, that's cool because what I was planning on doing anyway was getting it and then seeing how we could do oh, excuse me, seeing how we could do the Steam family thing or whatever. But he was able to come into some good fortune, so he could buy the game, and I'm like, that's awesome, man. I do kind of want to get the physical copy of it though, like the physical media. Oh, it's made in Source 2. Oh, that's even better. See, it's kind of funny, with Source 2 because um, people keep saying that that's something they need to do with TF2 is it needs to be made in Source 2. I'm like, yeah, no. Like you're not going to get them to go through all that, guys. Come on. You got to have reasonable expectations for your companies. Like even if the company's ran by dicks or not, it doesn't matter. You have to have reasonable expectations. Oh, fuck. I don't want them to port TF2 to Source 2. Like, I could say they'd probably never do it, but it's also like the game has so much charm on its own. It doesn't really need to be improved upon other than, fixing bugs and any major balance issues. But they're always doing that because again, the strategies of the game would always change and just and other stuff like that. Like actually this is something Nintendo was smart about with the with Splatoon was they actually buffed some sub weapons that had just because they realized that as power creep was setting in, and especially I think they actually even mentioned it specifically that like as the players got more used to certain aspects of it, then there's no need to keep keep it at this week because now you need to be able to you know use it, right? I can't remember what it was. If it was like I don't I'm not gonna say it was the oh excuse me. I'm not gonna say it was the Tetra missiles, but I may be wrong. It's like, but the one of the things, the logic of it was like, hey, people have gotten better at the game, and so now they're no longer now the vast majority of players are no longer hindered. Oh, it was the killer whale. I remember the 5.1. They're like, as the game progresses in its lifespan, what was that? Hmm. As the game progress, they're like, it's something to the effect of as the has expanded in its lifespan, players are more used to the killer whale and they, now have the skills to dodge it. So we're going to buff it, which is smart. Once a game's been out for long enough, not only are more of the players going to be, used to it. The fact of the matter is that um I lost my train of thought there. Oh, buddy boy, it's looking smooth as eggs. I'm loving it. Is that too much? Yeah, I think so. Let's just clean this up first. Let go. It's one of the downsides. It's easy to forget to let go of the mouse button. The good thing is I got a nice wood table from the thrift store, so I can put my spiders on it. See, one of the good things about going to thrift stores, generally, depending on how they get their donation, how they get their stuff. I'm not gonna say donations because there's a lot of thrift stores that don't get donations. They buy things like pallets and stuff. Anyway, um, because you can find some awesome stuff like a table that's actually made out of wood. Because again, if I'm gonna have a table, I don't want to spend $40 on something that's mainstays and have it last about 2 to 3 years before it's completely useless. Instead, when I can have hold on, here we go. when I can have oh, sorry, I didn't see when you said just when you said that. Have a good night, Ozzy. Hope you have a good one. Thank you so much for dropping by. It's always good to see you, man. I'm trying to keep an eye on it, not getting too distracted. Yeah, it's good to get back into the streaming thing for sure. Because I hated being gone for too long. Because I actually had to skip going to group a few times too with all this moving crap. It's been a combination of moving and work. That's sort of been the oops. That's been the crux of it, right? Because again, dealing with the changes at work is a huge hassle because you're having to build an entirely new way of looking at things, right? Because again, yep, I was just double checking. I had to pull that up on the side. I just because there's a new we have a whole new system, for example, and some stuff takes a lot longer than it used to. Fuck. See, I was trying to avoid that. Here we go. And I've got to do some investigating on some discrepancies and all that. Unfortunately, tomorrow, I have to be calling people and trying to figure some stuff out. Because like the part of the problem of a parts department is you do have to deal with like um the GLs and stuff like that. Any variance between what you have and what the GL says you're supposed to have, you have to investigate that, which is, where you find loss, where you find improper accounting, and you just got to fix that in general, right? How much more? I might even be able to finish before the night ends, which would be great. One good thing, though, for sure, is that it is very quiet in comparison to the apartment that we lived in. One thing, there's no screaming babies. There's no neighbors doing it at all hours of the night. There's no whatever else went on there that annoyed us. Oh yeah, dogs that nonstop bark either late at night or very early in the morning because that's when they take them out. It's like, really, y'all? Come on. Could you at least get the thing to shut up if you're going to take it out? I mean, it's got to go out, sure. But could you tell them to shut the hell up? It's that whole idea of, well, when it's your own. It's like, I mean, cool, but, shut the dog the hell up. Hmm. Zoned out there for a second. Yeah, it won't be up too much longer. Once I get finished with this, I'm going to submit it. Oops. We're not, wait, can't, That's a good question. Can a mod submit an emote? I mean, I don't think so. I think only the channel owner can do that, but that would be an interesting paradigm. Maybe not paradigm. Paradigm's not the right word. That'd be interesting. See why it I don't know. That was super cool though that Paul played Harvester the other day because I'd never seen the game. Only I knew about it being crazy and some bits of content. I think it'd be worth to play it because now I don't know about YouTube because they do focus. They do typically focus on YouTube, but YouTube's also where they get the most engagement. Like I'd love to have like a discussion with them and be like, hey, something that you can do to help is by expanding your Twitch channel. Because I think that's one of the biggest things their Twitch channel is kind of lacking. Like compared to other Twitch channels. Now, I don't mean in content either. Um, they're lacking in like, wait, what the hell was I just talking about? Oh, I think I'm losing my mind because I'm starting to have those I have a feel like I'm having those waking dreams. I'm like, uh-oh. It might be time to go to bed. Let me see where I got so far. I mean, it's excellent progress. First off, I should be saving anyway. Plus, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do much tomorrow because I'm going to be spending most of my day investigating these discrepancies. Which I don't like. And I'm sure half of it is our process that something we're doing wrong specifically is causing this problem. You know, because like I pointed out the fact that I didn't know we were supposed to do end of day um, when we get done with it because we never did that. Our previous program did that kind of stuff automatically, so you didn't have to do end of day. It just did it right. Like once the day ended, it just ran it. But now we have to like manually run it every day. Oh shit! Screw that up. Leave that white spot in the middle because it looks like it's shining. So reminds me of one thing is it's always annoying when people insincerely call someone brainwashed uh or in a cult, right? Oh shit. Okay, let's do this again. It's like first off, if you legitimately thought they were like brainwashed or in a cult or something, that you'd probably be taking a lot more actions than just insulting them online, right? Hopefully you would. Because like a person that's in a cult is a victim. Cults victimize people. You can't just fuck, I lost my train of thought on that one too. Oh yeah. It's gonna be sweepy time soon. I want to try to finish this though. Feverishly. Again, there's some inconsistencies and stuff in what I'm doing, but it's okay. Here we go. Need to do this little crack right here. Yeah, get in there. Yeah. Look at that, look at that. Now that's what I call beautiful, y'all. See, file, export. Load train. Place the file and destination, yep. Yeah, place the file and destination. File, I don't have to save it. Awesome. So what I'll have to do tomorrow is I'll bother about submitting this or figuring out how to get this to him so that I can so that he can have a emote. I may even try to see about animating it, right? Ugh. Gotta stretch. You know, you could have it go across the screen and all that kind of stuff. That'd be really cool. So let me switch it back to just chatting. Cool. So anyway, oh, no, no, no. No, no, no. We're not doing that, good buddy. Sorry. Nice. They popped up at that last minute. So anyway, thank everybody for joining me. Even though it's kind of a simple stream. It's good. It's just good to get back into it, and to start to get back into the habit of doing it. Plus, like I said, I can, work on a little something, talk about stuff, let people know what's going on. So, um, the next time I will be online is going to be Tuesday, as long as I can make the time for it. I know that there's been a lot of tentative stuff, but I'm going to do my best to try to do it as long as I can be gone. As long as I don't have to go into work. Because I don't know if they're going to make me go into work or not. Like, they haven't given me any trouble for taking the day off because of my therapy, which I try to take the whole day off, so that I can also get stuff done throughout the week. So, I kind of do a dual purposes there, right? Since I'm going to take half the day off to go to a group anyway. So do expect me back Tuesday. Again, I'm trying to make sure to stay on the Discord. To first off, I'm gonna drop this to a Bloomaloo, because that's who I'm making it for. So be sure to drop by Bloomaloo. Tell him, hey, how's it going? Give him $1. He probably deserves $1, so give him $1. And then I'm going to drop my Discord because, again, if there's anybody who's not in Discord, who's watching, feel free to join. I'll be happy to have people, have it go, anything that sort of builds it up a little bit. Again, I'm not an expert on Discords, and I'm not an expert with the Discord thing, but it's very good. should probably also pop it on the YouTube chat too, shouldn't I? Feel free to drop by. I would love it. Anything that gets it going a little bit busier, right? Because I'm definitely trying to work on that. Um, Especially if anyone has any suggestions for games, memes, whatever else. Anyway, um, again, thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to raid the Leave ending because they pretty much stream in as soon as since I have, and they're a good friend of the channel. Um, so be sure to drop by and give them my love, or call them a jerk if you want to. Do whatever you want. But yeah, thank you so much, Cheesy, for joining me. So yeah, this has been a good one, and so I'm glad to be back in the saddle. See you guys. Thanks.
UX.